DualSense controller, PlayStation 5. While it's easy in 2021 to become obsessed with the latest gamut of Sony's gaming hardware, one piece of tech we can all too often forget about is PlayStation VR. This magical helmet felt like a true revelation when it first launched back in October of 2016, 5 years ago. So we thought it worthwhile to take stock in celebration of this anniversary, assessing what exactly is the state of PlayStation VR in 2021. Now, you might be watching this and thinking, PlayStation VR? Are players still bothered about that old bit of kit? Well, I'm here to tell you that, yep, they sure are. To the extent that PlayStation VR still boasts a prominent position on the PlayStation Store, forming one of the platform's 3 major pillars alongside PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Hi everyone, it's Aaron here from Push Square, and PlayStation VR, as old as it might now be considered by some, is still capable of offering up PlayStation fans several unbelievably immersive experiences that are all unavailable elsewhere. But is now a good time to invest in a headset? How has it fared this year? And what does the future hold for PlayStation's bold vision of virtual reality? Let's take a look. Starting off with one of the major boons of investing in PlayStation VR right now, Sony's headset still remains the only way for console-preferring players to enjoy the wonders of virtual reality on a home console. Because while Nintendo dabbled with the concepts on Switch by way of a Labo kit, and Microsoft could never quite decide whether VR or AR was for them, in 2016 PlayStation dived deep and fully committed itself to the concept. Was the headset perfect? Absolutely not, few things often are, and technology iterates and evolves so fast these days that it was pretty obvious from the start that PlayStation VR wouldn't stay cutting edge for long. However, for a good 3 or 4 years there, PSVR was the most affordable way console gamers could enter a game world in a more immersive manner than ever before. Providing you were willing to contend with the massive cables and wires, the far outdated PlayStation Move controllers, and the need for a proprietary adapter if you want to use it on PS5, PlayStation VR being the only home console VR headset still gives many players a far more accessible way into this ecosystem than most. As already alluded to, it says a lot that after the launch of PlayStation 5, Sony wasn't content with leaving PSVR owners, and indeed any incoming purchasers of the tech, by the wayside, as evidenced in the headset's compatibility with PlayStation 5. Providing you were willing to send off your headset's unique model number in order to get the necessary PlayStation camera adapter sent out to you, the PlayStation VR headset is indeed fully functional on the current gen hardware. Sadly, as PlayStation 5 owners quickly found out this year, setup isn't as simple as unplugging the PSVR unit from your PS4 and into the new box. Instead, you must use the PlayStation camera adapter to connect the PlayStation 4 camera with the PS5. For some reason, the PS5's new dedicated HD camera isn't compatible with the headset, which renders it somewhat useless for any PlayStation 5 owner who wants to regularly play VR. Once you've done it once, however, PlayStation 5 is indeed fully compatible with this first generation version of the PlayStation VR headset, and you don't need to think about it ever again. Phew. I hate to say it, but 5 years into PlayStation VR's life cycle, and I think it's clear that Sony itself has lost a lot of interest in supporting the platform with high quality games. I wouldn't go quite as far as to say that it's abandoned it in a similar way that it did PlayStation Vita, RIP, but there's no doubt that we're a long way removed from the days when games like Blood and Truth and Astrobot Rescue Mission were a regular occurrence. With PlayStation 5 now being the new hotness, it makes sense that PlayStation's run of first-party studios has since focused its efforts elsewhere, but it's still disappointing to know that the best days of PlayStation VR's first iteration are probably behind it, at least from a AAA first-party standpoint. The last major true PlayStation VR exclusive I can recall was Marvel's Iron Man VR, a great superhero simulator that truly put you in the shoes of Tony Stark's shell suit. It even made good use of the PlayStation Move controllers. That game released well over a year ago now, in July of 2020, however, and was more of a second-party exclusive, seeing as it was developed by an external studio in Camouflage, although you can imagine it benefited from a lot of Sony-backed funding. Right now, in 2021, The best example of a PSVR first-party exclusive, and even I admit here I'm stretching it a little bit, is Media Molecule's Dreams. VR support in Dreams launched just over a year ago, and there's plenty of cool experiences to try out for those willing to find it. In short, first-party PlayStation VR support is currently very thin on the ground. Here's hoping though that similar efforts will return soon. More on that later. Of course, much like Thanos equipping the Infinity Gauntlet, PlayStation VR's recent lack of first-party support has led to several third-party developers and indies to exclaim, "Fine, I'll do it myself." And God bless them for it. Especially in 2021, this has been an area where PlayStation VR as a platform has continued to thrive most, largely thanks to the efforts of smaller teams and studios who are still willing to experiment with the format. It's not just wacky or low-budget third-party PlayStation VR games releasing either. Only a couple days ago did new co-op zombie shooter, because it's still 2006 apparently, After the Fall arrive, admittedly without that big of a bang on PlayStation VR. After the Fall, for all intents and purposes, intends to offer PlayStation VR players a similar experience to, say, Left 4 Dead or even Back 4 Blood, pitting teams of 4 against hordes and hordes of the enemy undead while exploring an icy and dilapidated landscape. Is it a little rough around the edges? Yes, but it succeeds where it counts most, by tapping into that deeper level of immersion something like PlayStation VR can only provide, and then infusing this tried and tested style of co-op experience with a lot more scares and tension as a result. Would we expect anything less from the folks who brought us Arizona Sunshine? So what were the other PlayStation VR heavy hitters in 2021? Well, obviously, it all kicked off in January with the launch of Hitman 3's VR component. Not the most elegant implementation, I'll admit, but it's still a fair example of a fairly prominent franchise and developer offering up an additional slice of content by way of VR. Very similar to what we saw from Resident Evil 7 and Rise of the Tomb Raider's PlayStation 4 release back in the day. Another notable release this year was I Expect You to Die 2, a sequel to one of the earliest and most ingenious PlayStation VR titles that was a perfect example of that locked-in-a-room concept translated into a game. Admittedly, it didn't seem to have as big an impact as the original, but it proved just as witty and creative as the original when it reviewed. Then you also had Sniper Elite VR, which launched back in July, serving as a more immersive take on Rebellion's War Set series by letting you view the Nazi-slaying action from behind the lens of a sniper scope. Sniper Elite VR is notable because it was a standalone release, not an add-on to an existing game, and even boasted PlayStation VR aim controller support. Remember that lump of plastic? It's not a genre for everyone, sure, but props to Rebellion for rebuilding the franchise hallmarks, X-ray killcams included, entirely from the ground up for virtual reality, and then bringing it to Sony's platform. Overall, major PlayStation VR releases have been extremely slim pickings as expected in 2021, but there was plenty to dive into, providing you were patient and willing to dive deep for it. Okay, so moving on to the future of PlayStation VR, and we'll start off this section discussing what we absolutely know about the platform for sure. The days of these Gen 1 PlayStation VR headsets are numbered. It was in as early as February this year that Sony itself confirmed this, announcing that a next-gen version of the PlayStation VR headset was already deep into development. Did they do this by showing us the thing? Oh no. But we did get a look at the rather swish-looking controllers, set to receive adaptive triggers and haptic feedback support in a similar way to the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. Sony has remained pretty quiet on PlayStation VR 2, or whatever they end up calling it, since then, but we can expect to hear more details relatively soon in the new year. Until then, us PlayStation VR fans can take comfort in the fact that we'll soon no longer have to fumble around with PlayStation Move controllers, can look forward to just a single wire connection, and are set to experience a much more straightforward PlayStation VR setup process. Plus, the new PlayStation VR controllers having a dedicated analog stick for each hand is sure to change the game. Does this suck for those of us with an original PlayStation VR headset? I would argue not really. Considering we've become accustomed to upgrading, say, our phones every 2 to 3 years, the fact that this tech would have been around for 6 years by the time PlayStation VR receives a new iteration, I think we've gotten an appropriate amount of bang for our buck. This leads me nicely on to With PlayStation VR 2 technically confirmed, the hope is that this would go some way as to explaining why first-party PlayStation VR games have been relatively slim up until now. Let's say that the next-gen headset does indeed launch sometime next year, as crazy as it might be. You can bet your bottom dollar that we'll be seeing at least a handful of exclusives launch alongside it. Is there likely to be a bunch of cross-compatible games that work on both PSVR headsets? Sure. I can definitely see something like Moss Book 2 fitting into this specific category, especially as it's already been announced. However, for the most part, it's almost certain that select PlayStation studios are working on PlayStation VR 2 exclusives that we simply know nothing about yet. PlayStation VR 2 is going to need it too. 2021 has been a year where other companies have invested deep in virtual reality, with the Meta/Oculus Quest 2 in particular receiving pretty much almost every third-party VR game that PlayStation VR received, if not more. And this is alongside locking down exciting platform exclusives such as the recent re-release of Resident Evil 4. Not to mention that something similar seems to be happening with a version of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas in the near future. For PlayStation VR 2 to come out as a real contender, we'll need to see plenty of PlayStation VR 2 exclusives, and that includes tying up third-party deals in a similar fashion to what we saw with Marvel's Iron Man VR or even Batman Arkham VR. What a game. So, as you can probably tell, PlayStation VR has spent the majority of 2021 being a bit hamstrung. It's obviously not been a complete disaster, mostly thanks to third-party developers and indies, but it's so clear that what we're seeing here is very much the calm before the storm. Here's hoping that 2022 will bring with it more news about PlayStation VR 2, in a way that doesn't isolate those who have already invested in the concept. Simply put, watch this space. What are your thoughts on PlayStation VR in the 5 years that it's been here? Are you happy with the games that have released for it recently, or do you find yourself looking ahead and being more patient? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. And when you've done that, why not leave a like to show some love, and consider subscribing to the Push Square YouTube channel for everything else PlayStation related. Until then, thanks as ever for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.